I mean, the big question is do we want to charge a capital cost for new hookups for new systems?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it does, and we've done it in the past anyway, on certain occasions. So then the next big question is there's a fee of $1,000 in there. There's been some discussion floating around here about it, single unit, $2,000 per unit. Multi-unit residential, $1,000 per unit, so that's as many as would be in the building. And commercial, $20 per square meter. I don't know what that actually would amount to. Well, I guess is that a place you want to start with that, or?
Well, we definitely need to recoup some of the cost,
Yeah,
and I'm not sure. I've heard someone talking about some other places charge 5,000, 3,000, so 1,000 seems very. I'm not sure if that's enough, I guess, and I don't know the answer to it, so but maybe. Does anyone know what other areas would charge versus 1,000? Like is Bridgewater would be a charge? Or
Yes.
Halifax?
There's
a chart in
There's
the
comparisons in
report.
there.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Oh, there.
So-
the answer 3,000.
So two of the key things are separating residential uses from commercial uses from industrial. So East Hants takes a single unit residential. They have 3,000 for water and 3,000 per lot for sewer. 2 unit is 3,000 for additional units. So 2 unit would be $6,000 there. And then multi-unit dwellings are 950 per bedroom for apartment buildings, or 750 per unit for townhouses. For the town of Bridgewater, they do 1,500 per unit. And then HRM single unit and townhouses are 5,710 per unit. Multi-units are 3,835 per unit.
Andre.
No, I don't venture the council, but we're looking a lot from this chart. And again, it's not very, I like something a little bit more broad because it's hard really to take anything from this. But I would say that what we want to do, we don't want to burden existing users with the cost for developing out.
Yeah.
That's not their responsibility. If we had a sewer commission, we wouldn't be allowed to do that. UARB would not allow us to do it. So we wanted to make sure it should be cost neutral to us. We shouldn't, to my mind, it shouldn't be something we make money off, and it shouldn't be something that we lose money on. So what I need to know is how much does it cost? I also don't understand the distinction between residential and commercial, honestly, unless there's a different cost of installation. If I'm putting a lateral in or whatever, like to me, there's a cost to it, and that's what we want to recover.
So Fred helped to provide some costs. So if we're looking at the existing project that we're proposing that we've applied for ICR for, that would service potentially the Chester Hill subdivision if that were approved. So the application that we applied for the Chester project, the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, is $16,943,000 roughly. So if we were to get ICIP funding for that, the cost to the municipality would be 26.6% if we were to get the full amount of the funding. So that would leave our costs at $4,518,000. And so if you were to take that as our total cost and to assume 500 new units could be served by that upgrade, then the cost is roughly $33,800
Can't charge people that.
per unit. So the cost recovery becomes more difficult there if you're only looking at charging new development and not existing ones that are going to.
So you can't charge people who already
No,
done it. I don't believe in
no,
that.
you can't do that.
No.
No, I agree.
And I don't think you're trying to recover all your costs. It's just to help. It's
So
some,
what's the appropriate amount?
well, a couple of $1,000.
1,000 may not be enough.
I don't think.
No, I think 2 is better. Right now, we don't have I know in Chester Basin, and I hate to go back to that, but I know that we've done it. Like when we added that in Chester Basin, it did not cover the cost by any stretch of the imagination, but we charged each unit $5,000 to hook up to the new system. And if they couldn't afford to pay it up front, we financed it for them and they paid it over time, but it was a reasonable amount.
Well, quite frankly, that is reasonable. If you had to put in your own septic system, we're talking today 20-30,000 at least.
I misspoke too, just real quickly. That 33,000 was the cost if we didn't get funding. The cost if we do get the funding and we only pay for the 26% is 9,000.
9,037.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And that sounds right, I thought something sounded.
Yeah, that I misspoke, sorry.
Well, you have the best way to get 3 or 4 more than you had before. I mean, I think that's the idea. is to
But
try to-
how much does it cost, I mean, if we make, because we have part of the sewer charge that we charge, the EDU charge is goes against servicing, wouldn't it go against servicing debt? It's not all maintenance.
That's correct. Well, it goes towards the whole cost.
Yeah, so that's whatever it's at now, $600 and some dollars.
70, basically.
Close
Yeah.
to 7, but I understand that doesn't even cover our maintenance, does it?
Well, I don't know the answer.
No, I don't either, but I was
I don't know the
understanding that
answer.
we're low on the low end, I'm not sure.
I'm not 100% sure. Derek?
You're talking about the hookup charge right now, and that's under right now.
The hookup charge we do.
The hookup charge is one thing, and then we charge a sewer charge.
Yeah, sewer rate every
An
year.
annual
Yeah.
rate,
I understand that.
Yeah.
Are we talking here now about new hookup?
a new hookup.
And what are we charging now? If someone wants to hook up today, they come and they say they want to hook onto the sewer, what do we charge them?
Nothing. Just, they pay for the lateral coming in or whatever it is. Yeah, but they don't pay for any of the previous capital
That's
costs.
kind of a,
But that's because they're existing systems and stuff like that. But we're now talking about expansions to systems.
Yeah, but even if it were existing, it cost, that putting the infrastructure in the ground costs somebody. And it wouldn't make sense to have those previous users pay for that infrastructure, and then just because you come late to the game, you get it for free.
No,
So the idea of a capital charge
it's not.
is valid.
Yeah.
The amount, there's a balance. It had, the system has to be sort of self-funding. So part of it has to come from the capital upfront charge. And then that whatever isn't has to be then made up by the EDU, basically the annual charge. And that charge is then split into whatever it takes to fund the remaining capital plus the maintenance. So I don't have the breakdown of that. I don't know how much of our EDU it goes towards maintenance and how much is for capital.
I can, we can bring that forward to council.
I think the biggest idea is that we're in favor of a capital charge. It's a little more detail on.
We don't have enough information as to what other units are charging. I look at East Hants, they seem to have done a fairly substantial analysis here. I don't think we've done any. And we only have 3 units to compare out of about 55, 160. How many units do we have in the province?
So I could only find 3 that are actually charging this infrastructure charge at the development permit stage. There might be, there are units that are definitely charging at the hookup stage, but this is a separate charge from that. This is a separate charge from a hookup charge. This is a development charge. So new lots that are created, new development permits that are created, they would be charged this if they were in the area.
Yeah, that makes sense. To my mind, like, what we're paying for when we make this expansion is capacity.
Yeah,
In terms of, we can take so many, whatever, meters cubed per day of sewage now that we couldn't before, and there's a cost
to do that.
to do that. But you could put a price on every meter cubed if you wished. So when a developer comes and they're gonna build a single family home, it's gonna take maybe 1 meter cubed per day, but if it's a triplex, they may
Takes
take,
more.
it may take 2.5 meters cubed. And so, that's why you would have potentially different rates for different uses, because it would be commensurate with the amount of, like, volume.
The volume.
Yeah, so.
Duplex versus a single home should be different charge.
That's the only reason why you'd make them different. It's not really so much the cost of like installing the pipe.
No.
So,
But I think they do address that in the EDU unit charge. If I'm not mistaken, a single dwelling is less than the restaurant. If it was, when they did am I right? So that if you have a restaurant with so many chairs, there's so many ED units per, isn't that how it works?
there's a tier.
Yeah, so that part would be written into, not into
Yeah.
the initial, yeah.
Yeah, well, if funding the system is in two parts, and one part of it is that the upfront capital investment to sort of get an immediate recoup, but there's still some remaining cost, like we don't want to charge everybody, whatever you said, $9,500 per connection. Maybe we charge them, let's say $3,000, but there's still a cost to the system for your usage. Well, then are we going to recover a bit of that over, say, 20 years? And we've got that factored into the EDU that we would, like, we want to know how much our EDU is contributing towards that, and how many years it will take to pay that back.
Yeah, and I don't
And
know.
then we can figure out how much the capital charge has to be to make that amortization period reasonable, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we need a little more information on the
Okay.
EDU charges before we determine the capital charge.
What we're gonna charge.
But I think my assessment here is everybody's in favor of
We
capital
would have
charges.
to, otherwise the outside areas that aren't unserviced would be.
Are paying for
Are
it,
paying.
they don't like
Could
that.
well
I
sue
do.
us.
And it shouldn't be that much.
No, so we need you to come back.
Okay.
We intend to move forward with it. It's just a question of a little more information on what's covered in the charges we currently apply.
All right,
Plus, I think you have to know what you're gonna get in funding, when you Tara, like from the ICP application.
Well, I mean, if we don't get all that, we probably won't do it in the first place, so. Iggy, 8.2, request for decision, direct, dry wells. You had, that was on the agenda anyway. Bruce was gonna speak to that.
Bruce is gonna speak to that. I'm just gonna.
Yeah. The long and the short of it, is we're starting to get some calls. We're not having a formal council meeting for a while. So if we
Yeah.
reach the number of people that we think we should be giving them, we need to give permission to give out the water.
I'm just gonna ask quickly, our community well, we talked about.
You know, they aren't built yet.
Well, no, I'm not sure they're not built, but my community center has a well that it could possibly do, and I just wonder where we're at in that. We've asked to have that looked at, I just wonder where we're at. That's all.
I think that's on I'd have to look at the strategic priorities chart on where that is. I think it was scheduled to come with a report this fall, I think is what it is, right?
It's one of the 94 projects.
Well, I mean, we got a lot of projects. So anyway, where are we with the dry
Just,
wells?
just very quickly, the forecast for, from the province for the precipitation through to September 5th indicates that mainland Nova Scotia in the southwestern parts will be above normal precipitation. But in the, there's indication of conditions in the east being drier. So overall, it looks not too bad for us going forward. But we did decide, we did receive a couple of inquiries by phone. So we did update the program, well monitoring program on the website and started that as of yesterday. So our trigger point will basically be around 30 or so, which we had decided last year was a trigger point.
So all you're looking for from us today is if we reach that trigger point,
Yeah.
that will
I'm
initiate.
just advising you today that,
Yeah.
that we started the program and we're live.
Yeah, because we're not gonna be sitting for 3 weeks. like you
Well,
said.
that's why we were bringing it.
Sure.
How to do it too, so we probably would need.
Just historically, in the last, we didn't run the program last year. We only had 13 dry wells reported, but in 2020, of course, we had a major problem.
And we may get lucky and not need it.
Right.
Quick explanation of how the system works, just in case anyone's listening.
You go onto our website under water distribution program, and there's a quick link there. You register your dry well.
Right.
That comes into a log here, and at that point, we track it and map it. And at that point, if we decide to.
When we reach a certain number there, then we initiate the program.
We initiate
And the program,
is
People-
distribution of bottled water through several commercial outlets Foodland, Independence. There's one up in New Ross and also one in Hubbards.
So no charge.
No charge.
No,
They distribute vouchers.
yeah, we provide coupons to register drawing wells and then
This is just for drinking water.
just. Yeah, just.
It's just to help.
No, I understand, I think some people might be interested.
There is, we've asked EMO, but there's no indication yet that they'll be distributing water as in the past. It's just not an urgent priority at that point. And if we do need to, we'll contact Department of Lands and Forest again with respect to Graves Island and showers.
All that stuff, showers.
Yeah.
All he's looking for is if we reach that point, now that we're
Just to
now
advise you that-
taking the calls and letting people register.
Yeah.
If we reach the point at which we would initiate the program, is it all right there?
Yes.
Fine with me.
So we'll report back, the next council meeting and then we'll go from there.
But he has permission to initiate the
Yes,
program
yes.
if we reach that
Yeah.
trigger point.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, guys.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Just let us know via email.
Oh, somebody will.
I will.
Yeah. Okay, Municipality District Bloomberg Minister Brad Jones regarding enforcement of Off-Highway Vehicle Act.
So this is just a letter that I've included, the RCMP Advisory Committee last week. The RCMP advised us that the municipality, the District of Lunenburg, sent a letter to the province, to Department of Natural Resources regarding enforcement of the off-road Off-Highway Vehicles Act. So asking the department to do more enforcement. The RCMP suggested that that was helpful to them and that we may want to consider doing the same. So we just got a copy of the letter for your reference. And direction.
I can, I was, thank you, Tara, for including that. I was happy to bring that to the RCMP Advisory Committee meeting last week. I've had discussions with the staff sergeant for Bloomberg County on a couple of occasions, and as well as staff in terms of Jody and Gord, in terms of our own trails and the concerns that we're hearing and so on. So I thought it was an easy example to follow, if you will, in terms of what some of the other municipal units are doing in terms of correspondence. And it is around, and I think we can craft our own letter, if you will, and because it is around, for me, it's having the presence, and it's getting back to maybe how, you don't want to go back in history, but how it used to be. And I think Sharon in particular, you recall this working with DNR, when it was called DNR, of course, and the conservation officers and the like. Jody and I were talking about this yesterday, and he made a phenomenal point. I could take credit for it, but I won't. And that is that the provincial strategy has just been quasi recently released in terms of this trail strategy. And we might want to take a peek in that to see if there is something around enforcement. And if there is, link our letter to that.
Sure.
And if not, I mean, we should anyway, in terms of a stronger strategy around the province. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's a
Well,
wonderful
they should
idea.
take responsibility too.
Yes.
Greater
Yes.
than what they did.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll comment. I think within the department that some of the enforcement had been moved from one department to another. And I think then they're in the process of possibly moving it back because they found it didn't work. I think it went to environment, which didn't make a lot of sense. But anyway, I've had just this week a complaint about the trail in Marriott's Cove, and there's a really noisy dirt bike that was speeding. A person actually got the license plate of the dirt bike or the bike, I don't know if it was a street bike or what, and passed it on to the RCMP, and obviously they said, well, we can't do anything or won't do anything about that. We don't have the time. So somebody needs to take responsibility, and I know if it's Lands and Forest, fine, but I mean, people are a little frustrated because they don't know who to call, and they call one department and they say it's not our responsibility. They call here and we tell them to call the RCMP. It just needs to be straightened out where people are to lodge their complaints if they have any.
Yeah.
And I know the speeding, there are some speed limit signs in some area, but there's none between Marriott's Cove and Middle River. Maybe someone can look at that and have some, not that it'll help, but the motorized vehicles, maybe we should have a speed sign up.
Okay, Abdallah.
This is something near and dear to my heart since I've been here to council. And as some of you will remember, I have an ATV and when they brought in regulation to insure the ATV and to license it, I said, I will not do that because I think we're missing, and I've always said that, we're missing such a great economic opportunity. They're doing pilot projects, I hear, for 50 years. People are paying a lot of money for these. You solve a lot of problems if you let these machines on the side of the highway, and I thought they would address that when they were redoing the Motor Vehicle Act. I mean, it only makes sense to me that in other provinces, they do it. They look at it as an economic opportunity that if you could jump in your ATV, some of these people are paying $30,000 and $40,000 for these machines.
I don't know what you're suggesting, so,
Pardon me?
I don't know what you're suggesting.
Well, what I'm suggesting is that if I'm insured and licensed as an ATV driver, or you can drive it on what's called the side of the highway. And if we have bike lanes, the way the machines are, and I don't mean go down the middle of the highway, and you have the same law, if you get caught drinking and driving, if it's not insured, if it's not licensed, then you have somebody who would be able to enforce it. Right now, you're worried about them on the trails, all these, nobody's gonna enforce it. And not only that, I just think we're missing a great economic
Opportunity.
absolutely, because if you knew you could get on your four-wheeler and come down on the trail, jump down along Frank Swinimer Road in my district, which you can't do now, go down that road and go to the Island View Restaurant and have a meal. It's in my cross since I've been here, and I don't understand why the province is missing out. Look what they do in New Brunswick and Newfoundland. I mean, they welcome that kind of thing, but we seem to be behind the eight ball, and I don't know why the appetite is not there. I think we've written
Yeah,
about that, but anyway.
yeah. Andre, and then
No,
Tina?
I've got no problem.
Oh, I thought
Oh,
you
I
did.
thought he did too,
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
So a couple things. It's concerning to me, the example that you just gave, Sharon, around somebody snapping a photo with the license plate, contacting the RCMP, because the RCMP and our RCMP advisory meetings are open. So we sat here at the RCMP advisory meetings, and if people are willing to put forward those concerns and give a statement,
They
it's
should
my
respond.
understanding that they will absolutely follow through. But the problem is often when people aren't willing to give that statement.
Yeah.
From my understanding, and the others at RCMP advisory can correct me. So, again, it's difficult for all of us. So it's no good to point fingers if maybe we're not willing to do that ourselves, but I'm just like, I'm not saying myself that. Second thing is we did have a concern, evidence-based concern around, motorized vehicles on the newest trail, if you will, developed in New Ross. It seems to have stymied a bit and slowed down, or gone away. And that was with Poplar Hill. And so my contact with the RCMP was around, if you can't get out on the trails, on the machines, on your one machine that they keep housed here at our detachment, the side-by-side that the RCMP have, can you at least increase the presence in that area and park across from Colin Hughes for a while, just be in the area, and they've done that. Which is good, because again, if you're not breaking the law, you shouldn't have a problem. Like if I'm not speeding to get to my meetings, then I shouldn't have a problem if I don't get a ticket or get a ticket, right? The same thing. Off-highway vehicle monies that Abdallah, you had referenced, I would like to know how much money that we've tapped into as a municipality of Chester to put into our own Chester Connection trails, which is a good opportunity. So off-highway vehicle registrations, there's that pot of money that if you are an organized group, you can
Okay.
leverage and access, which is probably why Andre's not going to want to hear this, but we may be looking at forming another group in New Ross. And that is, again, when you look at, sorry, but again, when you look at those four-wheeler associations, like we had a group come in here from Hubbard's, and that's why I spoke to the group after and looked at aligning our efforts from New Ross to the Hubbard's group because of developing that inland trail for motorized vehicles. And we're not there yet, but we're getting there. And Abdel, I just want to mention that it is not, well, it is an economic opportunity, what you've referenced, but it's an economic generator. It's not just an opportunity, it's an actual generator. When you look at the four-season motorized vehicle opportunity, and I would be again remiss to not mention the four seasons. I'm talking winter, and I'm talking snowmobiles, and I'm talking about just the economic generator that they have brought to some of our inland communities, not just in this municipality necessarily, but through Kings and Annapolis, especially with the trail development. Thank you.
Hey, what do we want to do?
Write a letter.
Do we?
Say what?
Just in support of the, getting the Department of Lands and Forests, I'll call it still.
To do
To
some
do
increased
some of their own
enforcement,
work.
increasing the presence, yeah, looking at the conservation officer budget.
I just didn't know if the letter was supposed to say, let's let them on the highways.
No.
That's got nothing to do with it.
That's my own-
It was part of the conversation.
that's my own crawl.
I wanna see what the letter
I will make this one comment. When you have motor vehicles, you're always gonna have a small segment that abuse that privilege. And if you are a boater, there's always gonna be somebody that speeds into the harbor and creates a great wake and creates problems. And I think it's no different also with our ATVs that use our trails. I'm a trail user sometimes, and I found the vast majority of ATVs I encounter are very respectful,
Yeah.
and they slow.
Yeah.
And they're cognizant that a big vehicle like theirs coming up on a bicycle or somebody that's walking can be frightening. So they slow down, and it's been very good. So I would say that, the case that you cited, I would, in my experience, I would say that's an outlier. And I think it's the same in any pursuit. So I agree with writing a letter. We can always ask if they can do some enforcement. It doesn't hurt. I think that you're always going to have those few people in every recreational activity that's treated poorly and don't have respect for others. That's just a segment of our society.
That's human nature. Okay, so somebody should we have a letter drafted? Send?
Yeah.
You want that by motion, or do you just want to do it?
Let's make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Okay. I think the only thing left is reminder of the public hearing tonight at 6:30, just so everybody knows. And the next is, we've got to reschedule that grants workshop. So when do you want to do it? Do you want to do it next week sometime?
When would you
Chad
like
will
it
be here
here?
next week.
Chad will?
Chad will not be here next week,
Okay.
and he will not be
And-
here September 1st.
Okay.
Let's do it in September. We're taking the council off in August. Why don't we move the grants to August, September?
I just want to know when you want to do it, and I want to set a date while everybody's sitting here so that everybody knows that there's going to be here.
I want to do it in September.
I was gonna make it, I was gonna make it.
I know, but then when he couldn't make it, then figured, well, what's the point? Well, then we have to go through it all again.
So
So
I didn't know that. I didn't check.
No, I know.
The-
I know. So
Still
that's,
wasn't in my other. email.
so what date in September? Pick me one. When's Chad back?
Chad told me that he's away, hold on a second.
3 weeks from Wednesday.
He's off next week and not available August 11th to the 1st, or September 1st.
But we do have there was
So
a council
presumably-
meeting at the last of August, and sometimes maybe we could have put it in that slot. You know, I know that. it's-
The last week of
The
August,
25th.
we do have so is Chad here though?
Yes, he said he wasn't available the 11th.
I
or
am
September
away.
1st.
So
We're away at the end of August.
that doesn't work, because I want everybody.
So
here.
September, if we go to September and you want a Thursday, it would be the 8th, but
Maybe you can kill off one of those cows that we haven't hardly anything on the agenda and put it in one of those slots.
Well, I'll have to wait and see. 'cause
I didn't know what-
that's so
tell me-
far
tell me
from now, I
now.
don't know if it's coming.
Do you want to do it on a?
So our
Thursday or
first meeting in
Tuesday?
September, is that September the 8th?
Well, I mean, somebody's asking if I can get rid of a town meeting and do a workshop. At this point in time, I have no clue because it's so far out that, yeah.
September 1st is committee of the whole, September
Oh,
8th.
there is a meeting on September 1st.
Yeah,
But
are
Chad
you?
won't be here.
But Chad won't be here. We
Oh,
can't do it
okay.
without Chad.
I don't mind doing 4 o'clock on any day, for me personally. If we can't fit it in on council.
We
I know.
have a free Thursday in September, because there's 5 Thursdays.
No,
Oh.
was it
Oh,
last
right,
week
yeah.
or before? We have a conference on the
Oh, so-
22nd, so we
that's right.
rescheduled.
That's
There's
right.
5.
That's
so
right.
we
Okay, so what's,
If they had it on, it's on the back of the COW.
and if I can cancel the COW, we'll do it
Brings
early.
forward,
And
brings
if we
it
can't,
forward.
we do part of it on the next one.
Yeah.
Grant
Okay.
for
So
next
the
year, it's not
15th
emergency.
would be committee of the whole.
September 15th.
September 15th.
Okay, so we're having a grants workshop on September 15th,
Following Cal or
or
bring it
in
forward.
replace of.
Or bring
One or
it
the
forward.
other.
One or
And
the
that's
other.
good for you. You should- that's a
Okay,
scheduled time.
that's it for the agenda. A motion to adjourn.
So